Soup is hot. Be careful.
You look tired today. Did you sleep okay?
I'm fine, dear. Eat. You can stop pretending. I've been watching you for 2 weeks, Marcus.
He heard every word. He saw every lie. And he never said a thing. The morning Marcus arrived at St. Catherine's Monastery, no one expected him to stay longer than a week. He came with a single bag, a medical bracelet on his left wrist, and a laminated card that read, "I am deaf and mute. Please write if you need to communicate with me." The head administrator, Sister Helena, had looked at the card, looked at the young man's tired eyes, and nodded with quiet compassion. "God welcomes all who seek rest," she said, not expecting him to hear a word. Marcus nodded slowly, as if reading her lips, which, in fact, he was, because Marcus could hear perfectly every whisper, every footstep on cold stone floors, every conversation held behind half-closed doors. He was not deaf, he was not mute, he was a journalist. 3 weeks earlier, Marcus had received a tip from an anonymous source. A single voice message, distorted but urgent. St. Catherine's is not what it looks like. The charity funds, the donations, follow the money. And be careful, the last person who asked questions disappeared. His editor had called it a wild chase. Marcus had called it the story of his career. Getting in was easier than he'd expected. The monastery ran a small rehabilitation program for trauma survivors, people who needed silence, routine, and distance from the world. Marcus had submitted a fabricated psychological evaluation, borrowed a friend's medical history, and arrived at the gates with his laminated card and his lies. What he didn't expect was Sister Claire. She was the younger of the 2 women who managed the day-to-day operations of the monastery's outreach program. Early 30s, sharp eyes behind a calm expression, always carrying a leather-bound ledger under one arm. She was efficient, organized, and completely in control of every room she entered. The first time she spoke to Marcus, she crouched slightly so he could read her lips and said slowly, "You'll be assigned light work in the storage rooms. Nothing strenuous." He nodded. She watched him for a moment longer than necessary, then walked away. The second woman was Sister Diane, older, warmer, with laugh lines and a habit of patting Marcus on the shoulder whenever she passed him in the corridor. She was the one who brought him extra blankets on cold nights and left handwritten notes with his meals. "Soup is hot, be careful." Marcus almost felt guilty around Sister Diane. Around Sister Claire, he felt something else entirely, caution, because from the very first day he noticed something strange. She never looked at him the way the others did. The other nuns looked at him with pity or kindness or the practiced indifference of people who respected privacy. Sister Claire looked at him the way you look at a door you're not sure is locked. By the end of the second week, Marcus had learned the monastery's rhythms completely. He knew which hallways echoed and which ones were carpeted into silence. He knew that the administrative office on the East Wing was empty every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. He knew that Sister Claire's leather ledger was kept in the second drawer of her desk beneath a Bible and a stack of donor correspondence. He also knew, because he heard them say it, that something was wrong with the numbers. The Hargrove donation alone was $400,000, he heard Sister Claire say one evening through the gap of an improperly closed door. She was speaking to someone on the phone, her voice clipped and careful. "That's been redistributed. The paper trail is clean. Stop panicking." Marcus stood in the corridor, completely still, his mop forgotten in his hands. Redistributed. He spent the next 3 days photographing documents during his storage room shifts, letters, bank routing numbers printed on the backs of internal memos, a second set of accounts that didn't appear anywhere in the monastery's public financial filings. Accounts registered under a shell company called Seraphim Holdings LLC, based out of Delaware. He was careful. He was methodical. He was invisible, because no one watches what a deaf man sees. No one guards their words around someone they believe cannot hear them. The moment everything shifted came on a Thursday afternoon. Marcus was in the East Wing corridor, pretending to clean a window, when he heard Sister Claire's voice. Not through a door this time, but behind him, low and deliberate. "You can stop pretending." He didn't turn around immediately. He kept the cloth moving against the glass for exactly 3 more seconds, then turned slowly, pointing to his ear and shaking his head in the way he'd practiced 100 times. Sister Claire didn't reach for a pen and paper. She didn't mouth her words carefully. She spoke at a completely normal volume and said, "I've been watching you for 2 weeks, Marcus. You flinch at loud sounds before anyone else in the room reacts. You turned your head yesterday when Sister Diane dropped a tray in the kitchen, before you could have seen it happen. And this morning, when Father Benedict sneezed behind you in the chapel, you said 'bless you' under your breath." The cloth stopped moving in his hands. "Who sent you?" she asked. The next hour was the most honest conversation Marcus had in years. He told her about the tip, the anonymous voice message, the shell company. She listened without interrupting, sitting across from him in the empty administrative office, with her hands folded on the table and her face giving away almost nothing. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she opened the second drawer of her desk, reached beneath the Bible and placed the leather ledger on the table between them. "I've been building this for 14 months, she said. "Every discrepancy, every transfer, every name." She looked at him steadily. "I'm the one who sent you the voice message." Marcus stared at her. "I needed someone from the outside," she continued. "Someone with press credentials. Someone who could publish what I can't." She paused. "Tending to be deaf." "I didn't expect the source to be inside," he said. For the first time, something almost like a smile crossed her face. Almost. Sister Diane, it turned out, knew nothing. She was exactly what she appeared to be. A kind woman who believed entirely in the work they were doing, and had no idea that the donations she helped collect were being quietly funneled through Seraphim Holdings into private accounts belonging to the monastery's external board of directors. 3 men, none of them religious. All of them wealthy, connected, and very practiced at staying invisible inside structures that people trusted without question. The story Marcus published 6 weeks later ran in 4 national outlets simultaneously. The headline read, "Holy Deception, How $2, $3 million in charity donations disappeared behind monastery walls." By noon on the day it published, 2 of the 3 board members had retained criminal defense attorneys. By the following week, a federal investigation had been opened. The monastery itself was placed under independent financial oversight, with Sister Claire appointed as the internal auditor, a detail that Marcus included in the final paragraph of his piece because he thought it mattered. He visited once. 3 months later, Sister Diane met him at the gate with a warm smile and a handwritten note out of pure habit. "Coffee is ready, come in," before catching herself and laughing. Sister Claire met him in the same administrative office where she'd exposed him. She was reviewing documents, as always. The leather ledger was gone, replaced by an official audit binder twice its size. "How did you know I'd publish it?" Marcus asked. "You had no guarantee I wasn't just going to walk out and bury it." She looked up from the binder. "I didn't," she said simply. "But I'd already tried everything else. Sometimes you have to trust someone who has more to lose than you do if they get it wrong." Marcus thought about that on the drive back to the city. He'd come to St. Catherine's pretending to be someone who could not hear, could not speak, could not tell anyone what he witnessed. He'd used silence as a weapon, a tool, a disguise, and he'd walked out carrying the loudest story of his career. But the question that stayed with him, the one he couldn't put in the article, couldn't file away with his notes, was simpler and heavier than any detail in the ledger. How much can people take from someone they believe has no voice? The answer, he'd learned, was everything. They take everything, until the silence breaks. End.